I'm Dana Rohrabacher, and I was a speechwriter for Ronald Reagan for 7 years in the White House, but I'm not a really speech giver, you know. So I had to write a few things down for myself, just for notes for myself. So, and I always feel like I'm comparing myself with Reagan, and you can imagine what that means, to all the pressure on me to don't think of me like Ronald Reagan. Anyway, okay, I'm going to.
You have a nice smile like that.
Just tell me when you want it.
Okay, there we go. Well, let me just say that I've written a little bit of introduction for myself, okay? So here it is. And let me just note, it is all about liberty. It's always been that way with me anyway. I appreciate this opportunity to express some of my thoughts and to hear some of yours. So after I get done with a couple songs and a little introduction, anything you want to ask me about would be fine. It's all about liberty. And there's no other group that I could talk to that would be better to talk to about liberty than here at the New Hampshire Libertarian and Liberty Forum. There are those who tell us that we Americans should not set government goals and then organize public employees, federal, state, and local, to accomplish those totally good-sounding goals. But that doesn't work. It doesn't work more often than not because federal, state, and local politicians and their bureaucrats make things worse as they expand their role in the name of making things better. So it's now up to us to make our argument, and that's one of the reasons I'm here, as I want to be part of your team, and I think that as we move forward, we can't rely on Ronald Reagan or whatever anymore like that. We've got to all be spokesmen for liberty. Expanding the role of government in our lives, especially when it is the federal government, will not make our lives better. Human progress flows not from controlling or regulating the lives of people, but from expanding their freedom, and especially in the technological development that flows when people are working, trying to improve their own lives. And to accomplish this, they use their labor, their creativity, and they do so in the most efficient way that can be done because they pay attention to it, the people who are involved in the project, rather than someone who might just be financing it, or some are not even involved in it in a way, but especially financing it at taxpayers' expense. They're not even financing it with their own money. It was my privilege to have served in the House Science and Foreign Affairs Committee during my 30 years in the House of Representatives. So what I was able to accomplish it's consistent with what it's been consistent with what I believe are my basic beliefs in limited government and expanding liberty. I will mention three things that I did while in the House, and three examples. And if you have anything to say to that after that, please, I'm going to open up for whatever questions you have. Number one, I was the chairman of the Space Subcommittee of the House Science Committee, and I was able to push through and enact into law the 2004 Commercial Space Act. Yes, I know I've gotten criticism for it. Elon Musk made billions of dollars from those reforms. Well, guess what? The taxpayers made many more billions of dollars by putting those reforms on the way they do process and the way they do their business. So the taxpayers saved billions more by letting someone who understood, not just Elon, anybody who came in to bid for these jobs, got the jobs. That was one of the things we demanded, of course, is that when you're doing work for the government, you've got to bid for it. You can't just be handed it. Number two, I authored and convinced my congressional colleagues to pass an amendment to a House omnibus bill in 2014 that prohibited the Department of Justice from using federal funds to interfere with efforts by state governments to legalize the medical use of marijuana. Now, I let me admit that I believe people should be free, adults should be free to use marijuana for other than medical purposes if they want to. That's fine with me. But my bill was a first good start, and I think that it's had a major positive impact in the sense that we know now, and the people in the health industry know, that cannabis it's not just for recreational purposes, which some people want to use it for. I can't say I ever used it for. Sure I didn't. But I did, of course. But the bottom line is that there's also very important uses for cannabis and for marijuana. It's got some things that it'll do that are positive for the human body. And we've got to let that be explored and exploited for the benefit of people. And I don't understand how people think that they're trying to protect us from ourselves when you're talking about adults now. And it's just craziness, because the same people are probably having my favorite drink, which is a margarita, tequila. They allow people to drink as much tequila or bourbon or whatever it is, whatever they have. They don't drink as much, but they got to outlaw and put people in jail for smoking a weed. That makes no sense to me at all. And at least I got it halfway through in Congress, where now we can at least forward through the states, and the federal government can't do anything to stop us in the state level from utilizing marijuana as a cannabis approach to helping people in their health, with their health and health purposes. Let me just say that there's another one that I'm very proud of, but most people don't know about this. I was on the Science Committee and the Foreign Affairs Committee for 30 years. And I accomplished something that a lot of people didn't pay attention to. They didn't necessarily have to pay attention to it. But I defeated something that would have caused great problems, and no one would have known how come we're falling so far back. They were going to change the rules of America's patent system. And I believe in intellectual property rights. I didn't do a good job of writing my speech out today, so I won't be able to sell it. But if I wanted to, if anybody wanted to buy, but I do want you to buy my book, which is better written than my speech. But the fact is that some very powerful forces in our country were trying to change the fundamental patent law. There's been very few freedoms that we have that have been so beneficial to our country, in that George Washington, I believe, was the first patent examiner, the first patent commissioner. He's the one who insisted that we have patent protection in our laws. And when he became president, he insisted on that. And they tried to change the fundamental patent law, and there's some big, powerful interests that were involved in that. And I defeated them. I'm so proud. It's probably the thing I'm the proudest of. And I'll tell you how they did it, how sneaky it was. Someone who invents something and applies for a patent, okay, he makes his application for a patent. That person has, when he's filed for the patent, but it takes, well, let me put it this way. It's different than filing for the patent and getting your patent. And there's a time differentiation there between the patent time that you file and from when you file, and if you get the patent, how long you get to keep it. Well, our policy has always been you get 17 years of protection after you have filed, and once it's issued to you, you got 17 years worth of protection. Sometimes it takes 10 to 15 years to get a patent. Some of these newer things that push various industries cost a significant amount of money and a significant amount of time, and so they didn't want to lose control of things that they were going to have to use in their, and these are huge corporations now that I'm up against. And they wanted to say that a person who files for the patent, he will get ownership of the patent, yes, right away, supposedly. He'll have 20 years when after he's filed, that at that point, well, let me put it this way. Let me read it to you. 17 years from the from the issuance of a patent. After 17 years, I'm trying to make sure you guys can understand this. I'm sorry. It's hard for me even to understand this. But the fact is that they were going to say that once you filed for your patent, and at 20 years after that moment, you no longer owned your patent, okay? That's what they're trying to say. The reality of it now is, and what I managed to save us in this battle, was that you file for your patent and your time doesn't start clicking, 17 years of ownership doesn't start clicking until they issue your patent. Now, you see the difference there? Because just because you filed, the big guys will run over you every time. But once you've got the patent, they can take you to court. So anyway, they were trying to say that just because it's filed, we're going to use that against you even for that 20 years. So anyway, that's I managed to defeat them and won by one vote on the floor. And I'm actually one of the things I'm most proud of. So with that said, I'd like to just say one last thing about foreign policy. Yes, I have always believed that Marxism-Leninism is like Nazism and the rest of these isms, that except maybe libertarianism, but I'm only going to that. The fact is that I happen to believe that Marxism-Leninism is an evil force, and I happen to be a Christian. That doesn't mean you have to be a Christian, anybody has to follow me, but we know that Marxism-Leninism has targeted people who believe in God and denied the freedom to everybody else as well. So we have to be, I have to believe that defeating communism over my lifetime has been one of my major goals, is defeating communism. I put myself at risk many times, and if you want to ask me about it, that's fine, or read a book. I don't want to get too open about this, but I worked with various government agencies and over the years. I went to Vietnam when I was 19 years old and was not in the military, but I did work for us important for our national security. I went to Czechoslovakia the next year in 1968, and I've been fighting communism literally all my life. I've been in Afghanistan and other places where I actually got into combat with the enemy. The enemy was never the Russian people. This is really important. It's the Russian people. The Russians aren't the enemy. It's communism that's the enemy. And that's one of the reasons I am supporting President Trump's efforts to try to have an understanding or to reach some sort of thing where we don't go and slide into war with Russia. We don't need a war with Russia because it's the Russian people are actually on our side if we let them know. It's the these people hate communism too. They understand it. A lot of them do. So I am pushing to try to see if we can have better relations, and that's what I believe with, but I'm not being naive, don't get me wrong. I would not cut one bullet from helping a freedom fighter protect his freedom against a Soviet effort there, a Soviet effort to take control of his country or to keep control of their country. So I just hope that we don't, look, the Russian people and the American people should be friends. They're not communists, and they probably understand that. But the worst thing that would happen, and and I think that Trump understands that, is that the next second worst thing would be if we allow communism to expand by force into a bunch of other countries. But the real thing would be if we end up killing millions of people in the name of stopping something that we didn't need to do, because the people who are threatening us were not communists. And I'll say one thing, because I know this was a newspaper article. Yeah, I met Putin. I've met Putin. I never, by the way, does anyone here know who Nestor Makhno was? Raise your hand if you know who Nestor Makhno was. Nestor Makhno was an anarchist leader in Ukraine. He's one of my heroes, okay? And Nestor Makhno was, I have a big picture of him in my office in Washington, D.C., in the House. In my House Representatives office, I had this picture of Nestor Makhno. Well, anyway, a team of Russians, it's been 10 years ago or something like that, came to Washington, D.C. on a tour and been meeting people, and I was one of they met me in my office. They came as I was one of maybe 20 members of Congress that met with them. And when they were surprised to see Nestor Makhno on my wall. Makhno, by the way, when he, in Ukraine, when his group of anarchists took over during the time period, and they dominated the scene when they were fighting against the Soviets. The Soviet Union sent a team of people down to tell Nestor Makhno, to tell him that he has to refrain from these activities because it might hurt their ability to fight the Germans or something like that. And so they said, for now on, when you have a policy, you're going to have to approve it through Moscow, through the Comintern. And Nestor Makhno was on the stage, and he had all of his people there at this big rally. We're going to meet the Soviet people, Russian people who's coming. And he said, so you're going to tell us what we can do with our policy? And he pulled a gun out and shot these Russian diplomats right on the scene. And then these Russians, 10 years later, are in my office seeing my picture of Nestor Makhno on my wall. So you can imagine what was going in their head. And I said, by the way, okay, we had an argument about it. And I said to them, why don't you come and play some American-style football with me tomorrow? And they decided to come up well, do you know where the Irish Times is in Washington, D.C.? It's right there in the middle of there's Washington Monument, here's the Capitol, and up here's the Irish pub. And I announced that we're going to play American-style football here tomorrow. And would you like to come? And sure enough, they stood up, and the leader of the group stood up, and it was Putin. He said, yeah, he wants to play football with us, but what he didn't know was that the people who play football with me are the most avid anti-communists in the world. I mean, we went, we played, and we won, and we all went up to the Irish pub. We're sitting there at a big table, and I said something about them having lost the Cold War, and let's have a toast to that. And now we're not going to have worry about the war between us anymore. No, we did not lose the Cold War, Putin says. We didn't lose the Cold War. And no, you lost and we won. I was being a little brash then. So finally it got so hot and heavy, I said, well, let's settle this the way Americans settle it at the bar. And so we put up and we arm wrestled, and sure enough, he beat me. But this other guy comes over to me does anyone here know who Jack Wheeler is? Okay. Well, Jack Wheeler is one of the great freedom fighters in our time. And he and I went to Afghanistan and fought Russian troops in Afghanistan during the occupation there. I mean, it was a bloody mess, but anyway, Jack's the type of life Jack knows and was able to shepherd me through this firestorm. But one of the things we had were these rockets. We smuggled into the anti-Russian forces at the Battle of Jalalabad, these rockets. They were 120 millimeter rockets, and to get them off these mules that we brought them in on, I saw Jack Wheeler holding it down. This was a really heavy rocket launching system, and so I knew, and Jack comes in and says, well, let me take him on. And it was Putin, you know. Okay, let me take him out of the pub. So sure enough, I say, okay, Jack, take over. So Putin and Jack get at it, and Putin starts putting him down and down. And Jack says, when do I start, Dana? I said, do it now. And he goes, bam! And he puts Putin down just like that. And Putin jumps up, says, CIA, CIA! And anyway, I haven't had a lot of interaction with Putin, but I do believe that the man is not a communist. He's an evil official. He's like all government officials in Russia have to put up with all kinds of things, and Marxism, Leninism is something they know doesn't work, and we have to deal with them as people who are engaged in a theory or they're engaged in government activity like a gangster or something, rather than treating them as an ideologue. And that's the only way because we treat them like ideologues, we're gonna have to be at war with them. And we don't need to be at war with them anymore. Anyway, that's my pitch on that. I've got 2 songs I'd like to play for you that I wrote, and I written a lot of songs, and
I do just want to say real quick.
Go ahead.
When I sent the email out to our list, we have libertarians around the country who are on our email list, that Dana Rohrabacher was going to be one of our keynote speakers here at the New Hampshire Liberty Forum. I got an email back from David Friedman, who said, you got to ask Dana to sing some of his songs. I didn't even have to ask him. Apparently there's in old libertarian circles, there's Dana's songs are held in high regard. So thank you for sharing this with us, Dana.
Well, thank you. Thank you for listening. I mean, I'm not the greatest singer but I am a good speechwriter, I will tell you. And I didn't write out that whole speech. I was Reagan's speechwriter for 7 years, and I'm proud of that. I'm very proud of that. Reagan, anyway, we can go through that, whatever you got. Let's see if I can hear this. Some of this is libertarian stuff now. So, from my wild libertarian days. Can you hear the guitar at all? Okay, let's see. This is the ultimate libertarian song, okay? Here it goes. Oh, you can vote for this and that, but all you get is a fat bureaucrat. Whether it's for welfare or war, the bureaucrats are always asking for more, 'cause they don't care who the hell runs. He's the one who gets the poverty funds, helps the poor wherever they are, goes out to find him in his brand new car. It's a Cadillac, a limousine, with a special assistant just to keep it clean, with federal funds from an agency, Lord, ain't fun fighting poverty. In the Pentagon, they like democracy too. Takes a lot of generals to keep, that's not it. In the Pentagon, they like bureaucracy. Takes a lot of generals just to keep us free. With shiny shoes and medals on their chests, they're protecting us all from behind their desk. 'Cause 100 million's a mighty cheap plane, but it'll get me to my golf game. And if I need a caddy, I know what I'll do. I'll ask Congress, and they'll draft you. Oh, you can vote for this and that, but all you get is a fat bureaucrat. Whether it's for welfare or war, the bureaucrats are always asking for more. There you go. Two minutes for one more. Okay, let's see. Rhonda, what song should I sing? Old Yak song. Why can't you see? We just want to be free, to have our homes and our families, and to live our lives as we please. Oh, freedom can't last long if your government's too strong. It's my life I want to live, but government takes more than it can give. Why can't you see? We just want to be free, to have our homes and our families, and to live our lives as we please. Why can't you see? Okay, there you go. Well, thank you. Thanks for letting me share my. By the way, I'm, as you know, I'm no longer in Congress. I was in Congress for 30 years, and I just want to thank those of you who helped me out when I was there. Some of you here were supporters of mine. I appreciate that. But now I appreciate even more if we stick together and we stay active. I'm going to stay active in this fight for struggle for. It's a struggle for freedom, like I say. This is all about liberty, whether or not we believe in it, because it's not expanding our government power over us that's going to save the day. It's us expanding the power of freedom and liberty for people to control their own lives here in the United States, and for attracting friends abroad by supporting people who believe in liberty and justice. So thank you all very much. God bless.